Well, hello there. Thank you for joining me for our first Dharma Coffee Talk. And I'm planning to do this at least once every week, where I will be sharing the Dharma talks that I do every Sunday at our Just This Zen group. As part of our regular group practice, when I give Dharma talks, I always give the members a printed uh, version of the paper. But I wanted to offer these talks on YouTube as well, because I know many people are busy and tired, and sometimes it's hard to read something that's any kind of length, more than a paragraph or two. So um, I hope you can get a nice warm beverage and settle yourself down, and I will just read the talk to you as I do in the group, and maybe add a couple comments at the end. And if you're interested in finding this talk, the written transcript of this talk, you're welcome to go to our website, justthiszen.com. And this first talk that I'm going to be sharing is titled Discovering Our Homework. So discovering our homework. Having homework isn't being flawed. Our world today is filled with idealized images of beautiful, rich, and famous people who seem to really have it all, as they live seemingly perfect lives. But social media and numerous interviews can show us that even these people who seem to be so perfect to us are sometimes just as messy-minded as we are. And at times, they make equally disastrous decisions that cause big problems in their own lives. Bad attitudes, strange beliefs, and addictions are also just as common amongst the rich, famous, and powerful as they are in the rest of us. No matter how much money, beauty, or fame a person might seem to have, suffering is still inevitable for them as well. And they will still have their own struggles to endure. As Alexander Pope famously said, "To err is human, but to forgive is divine." We have all made our own mistakes, and we all have our own achievements. So we should forgive ourselves for the things that we might have done wrong in the past, and let go of the fleeting and empty standards that society might use to measure us. Although we all have aspects of ourselves to work on, which I call our homework, comparing ourselves to others is not helpful. Instead, focusing very clearly on ourselves, our circumstances, and being aware of our own homework is what gives us the power to improve the way we interact with the world around us. Seeing our circumstances and ourselves clearly. Once we get out of our usual comparing mindset, we can start to see that we are truly unique beings. Although we have family and friends who might look similar to us or have similar backgrounds, we are all unique individuals who have never existed before and will never exist again. So it doesn't even make sense to compare our life paths to those of others. From birth to death, the path that we walk in this world is ours alone. This is something that people don't like to hear, but it is the truth. And if we choose to engage with it, it can empower us if we realize that we are the only standard by which we can be measured. And you are already perfectly yourself. So it's not possible for you to be a flawed version of yourself. Can you understand this? This is a very important point. However, as we walk along our path, we have rough edges that can cause friction in our lives as we progress forward. Just as a rough stone cannot move smoothly across the stream bed, these rough edges make problems for us and stop us from moving smoothly in a direction that is best for ourselves and others. For example, if a man who is generally a good person acts selfishly too often, his selfish behavior will start to negatively affect his circumstances. And that bad karma that he set in motion will start to come back to him. But these rough edges can be softened. Just as constant tumbling in the water will inevitably wear down a stone until it's smooth, the difficulties that these rough edges cause in our lives will also teach us and soften us in time. But as we all know, life's lessons can be extreme, unpredictable, and unforgiving. Although they can be valuable learning opportunities, it would be much better for us to work on improving ourselves and improving our lives before life's lessons cause us any more traumas and dramas. And meditation is one of the most effective tools to help us do that. Developing awareness and direction. In meditation, our minds can rest in this moment, letting go of everything to simply flow adrift in just this. And this single-pointed focus allows us to take a step away from our usual thinking mind and separate from all of the opinions and false ideas that can cloud our perspective. Just as an artist cannot see the entire mural while they are painting it, we cannot usually see the way that our minds work because we are always too close to our own thinking. So, as a painter would take a few steps back to see their mural clearly, we meditate to see the workings of our own minds clearly. As we practice more and more, we become more and more deeply aware of how our own minds work. Although this has profoundly positive effects on our lives, it doesn't necessarily feel good to see the various ways in which we are shooting ourselves in the foot. People will often try to shrug off their own homework when they start to see it. They might blame others or blame their circumstances. They might blame their parents or blame their finances. But in the end, we are all responsible for the way that we for the way that we react to the situations that arise in our lives. Although we might not be able to do everything that we want to do for our lives right now, there are always small opportunities to choose a more helpful path for ourselves and for others. But our habits, cultures, preferences, and dependencies make it very hard for us to see these opportunities and act on them. It's comfortable to continue in the usual way, but changing requires effort, and the results of that change are uncertain. So it can be very easy for us to derail ourselves, even when we know that our new direction in life is much better. The discipline and clarity of practice help us see through the muddiness of our minds and temporary emotions so that we can stay focused on this process of seeing ourselves clearly, our situations clearly, and then responding well to what each moment is asking of us. Mm. As our practice gains, as our practice gains momentum, that energy of practice from practicing for a long time, right? As our practice gains momentum, and as we continue to work on our homework, our lives can move much more smoothly in a direction that is truly healthy, positive, and balanced for us. This is our direction. And regular practice helps us keep our direction clear and as our circumstances change. Continually engaging in this process helps us make peace with our lives and ourselves. And this makes it much easier to make peace with others and their homework. This is the seed of empathy from which true compassion emerges. In the moments that lie ahead, as you go out about your day, try your best to see each moment clearly. And as you follow your direction sincerely, you might one day see that your homework assignments on your desk, that your homework assignments are dwindling and your desk is becoming clear. So this talk, I wrote this talk because, for many years I've had discussions with people before or after Dharma talks, and a lot of people who are new to practice. And some people seem to feel like there's a conflict. At some point, they see a conflict in Zen practice between just being who you are, accepting who you are, and trying to improve yourself, trying to better yourself. So this talk is sort of a response to those questions. And I think an important point to remember with this is one that I bring up in the talk, that we need to make sure we're not trying to improve or change ourselves because we're trying to meet some arbitrary outward standard, right? Our cultures, our gender, our age, our race, so many different things can create these boxes around us that make us feel like we need to fit into something, right? If you're an American male, if you're a Japanese woman, if you're a Russian man, if you're a Brazilian transgender person, if you're some type of person, as soon as you categorize yourself, you create a certain box or a standard that people will use to measure you. And I think that's something we have to be aware of. But from birth to death, we are unique beings, right? This temporary self that arises like a wave in an ocean, sure, it does have a temporary nature, right? And as it grows, it has its own qualities, but at some point it will return back to that great ocean of existence from which everything comes. But just like waves in the ocean, all of us are unique. Our consciousness, our perspective, our life circumstances have never happened before and will never happen again. So although we might put ourselves in these cultural boxes, gender boxes, although we might use these boxes in a soft way, I think it's very dangerous for us to believe in them too rigidly, because they are totally arbitrary constructions made up by people. So, you know, I hope we can all save ourselves some headaches and let go of them to a great degree. But there's always that need to have balance, right? We can't let go of them completely because we do have to live in a society. And if people have no way of understanding who you are, what you are, then it creates more problems than it solves. So I think everybody has to find that balance for themselves with their own identity. And once you've found that balance and you sort of see who you are more clearly in the context that you're living in, once you have that perspective, then it's easier to say, okay, I'm at peace with who I am, yes, but maybe I'm a selfish prick sometimes, right? You know? And if a person is selfish and they do selfish things, then they're going to create, as I said in the paper, this kind of ripple of bad karma around them. They're going to create negative social circumstances with the people that they have been selfish to. and then that can negatively affect them. Um, so that's an example of a characteristic that a person can have that is fair to try to improve, to try to change, right? It's not trying to change yourself to match someone else's standard. It's just you're seeing that as you pursue this path of having a better life for yourself and a better life that can serve others, you see, oh, there's this aspect of myself that it would probably help me to work on. So once you see aspects like that in yourself, you can make them a part of your practice, right? I come from a mostly Korean Zen Buddhist background, and in the Korean tradition, using a hwadu or a practice question is a very important part of practice. And I think in a very sort of a modern take on the hwadu kind of practice, of course, it's not the traditional hwadu practice, sort of a modern interpretation of it, is to take these homework issues that we have and form them into a kind of simple question. So, for instance, if I was a very selfish person who is, not considerate to others, I could ask myself, you know, in my practice, I could just sit and just hold the question in my mind. Why am I so selfish? Why am I so selfish? And as you hold that question in your mind, just like with a wadu, you're holding the question. You're not analyzing it. You're not investigating it deeply, right? You're just holding it. And, from the little bit of a background that I have in psychology, it makes me very curious if this kind of practice doesn't make the issue more available for the passive processing centers in our brain, the parts of our brain that are always processing our living experience, even if we're not consciously aware of it. I think maybe I would be interested to see some research in the future on this. Any psychologists who want to do that, please go for it. Um, but I think that that is a really powerful tool, and it's a very simple tool to just simply heighten your awareness of your homework by forming it into a simple question and just bringing it into your practice. So as you sit, the question could be something simple like, why am I selfish? Why am I selfish? Or maybe, why worry about money? Why worry about money? Or maybe, why do I attach to people so tightly? Why do I attach to people so tightly? Or maybe, why do I expect so much? Why do I expect so much? Right? And by just softly holding these kind of questions in your mind, it'll deepen your connection to these issues. And that it can be uncomfortable, but that first step of engaging, sort of non-violently confronting the realities of these rough edges that we have, once we start to engage in that process, we can start to see little by little, we can start to see the roots of where that rough edge comes from in ourselves. And the deeper our awareness is of it, the easier it is to let it go. And the easier it is for us to feel less affected by it because we're not running away from it anymore, right? Um, it's sort of like, once you've confronted something that you're afraid of, it immediately becomes less scary, you know? Um, and I think this is true for many people, of course, not everybody. But I feel that this methodology is really effective. And over the years that I've been, teaching meditation and working with people in their practice, this technique seems to be very effective. So I hope that that can be helpful to you. And as I said at the beginning of the talk, having homework is not being flawed, right? We all have little ways that um, we might create friction as we move through life. And I think it's an important part of an honest practice for us to see those parts of ourselves clearly and to acknowledge there are some things that I could work on to make myself a better mother, a better father, a better friend, a better teacher, a better, a better Dharma brother or sister to the people in my Sangha, right? There are little ways that we can see our relationship to our situation more clearly and act in a little bit of a better way. And I think we should just keep the intention to try to clarify and improve those relationships that we have to the circumstances in our lives. And as we continue on that path, we'll start to realize that we move through life much more smoothly, right? As you face more of your own demons, as you pull more of those skeletons out of your own closet, there are fewer there, right? And once there are fewer there, as I say at the end of the talk, you'll notice that the homework on your desk is dwindling, right? A lot of these issues that might have really made your mind so loud when you first started practice, these things that just couldn't get out of your mind, a lot of those things will start to work themselves out through your practice and through your life. Um, and as you sit and as you live your life, you'll realize that there's just less hindrance, right? You can sit quietly somewhere without music, without a person to talk to, just look at the trees, and you can feel at peace, right? It sounds simple enough, but try it. Try it. If you haven't practiced meditation before, especially, please try it. Right? Just sit someplace quietly with nothing to entertain you. No phone, no music, no book, nothing. Just sitting anywhere, outside, inside, and see how long you can sit there contentedly, feeling satisfied, right? For most people, boredom will kick in pretty quickly. And really, what that boredom is it's just our mind reaching for something other than just this, just this moment as it is, just us as we are, right? And that constant reaching for better, pushing away worse, that push pull that we always fall into is what creates a lot of the stress and drama in our lives. And the more we kind of work through our homework, the more we work through our rough edges, the easier and easier it is to just be contentedly at peace with what is, with ourselves as we are, with our circumstances as they are. And then when we choose to act, when we choose to set an intention towards some goal or something, we can do it in a clear way that is not focused on that push pull thinking of I want to get something or I want to stay away from something. It's not about that anymore. It's about this broader situation. How can I serve the well-being of my life and the well-being of other people's lives better? And once you have that clearer motivation, um, and you over time become less attached to getting what you want and avoiding what you don't want, then it becomes much easier to do what you need to do to foster, to cultivate well-being in your own life and in the lives of others. Um, so anyways, I hope that was clear enough for everyone to understand well. And I hope you'll tune in for the next Dharma Coffee Talk. Um, and I wish you luck in your practice. Take care. And for more information, feel free to go to justthiszen.com. Thank you. Thank you for watching my video, and if you liked this content and you're interested in more content from Just This Zen, you're welcome to subscribe below, and whenever new videos come up, they will go straight to you. And also, you're welcome to visit our website, justthiszen.com, or follow us on Twitter, with Just This Zen 1 as our Twitter handle, or on Instagram at Just This Zen. Thank you for watching.